The bottom half of page 10 is one of the more difficult things to work out. Now, I built this system to help me make these shapes. Just remember, you know, I've been doing calligraphy for a long time. And growing up in Trinidad, I didn't have any teachers. And I had to kind of figure out ways to do things. So when I moved to England and I went to Reigate, and I studied at Reading, and then I studied at Reigate. I struggled with the teaching because it was different to how I taught myself. So a lot of the times we were taught to do something by sheer force of repetition. And I had, and I still have, a problem with that. Because there must be an underlying, to my mind, there must be an underlying structure which houses the essence of the shape you're trying to produce. And the geometry must be able to direct you as to how this shape is, how to make this shape conform to a geometric construct. But it has to be teachable and it has to be repeatable. And it can't be done by sheer force of practice. There has to be a system that allows you to understand a shape, understand why that shape exists, and how it expresses itself without you having to basically beat it into your head. And so this is how I approach calligraphy. There must be a system. Everything we do must have a system. And that system has to sit within a geometric construct. It has to have points that we can plot. And we can see and sense where the line is going. And from there, we can understand why the line looks the way it looks. And consequently, we can build a theory that generates a repeatable consequence. This is not about me telling you, write the letter O 10,000 times, and let's hope you get one of them right. That for me is, I have a serious problem with that. Because by the time you get to the 10,000th O, you have made so many mistakes and you have ingrained those mistakes into your practice that somebody has to now come and help you unlearn all those mistakes. I have a serious problem with that kind of teaching. And this is why when I teach, I have these geometric systems, because the geometry really underpins our understanding of the practice. And it is from my own personal struggles with writing that I've developed these systems, which I have shared with students, and I've seen it dramatically alter the way that they approach their writing practice. And this that I'm going to show you is one of those systems. So one of the shapes that I struggled with constantly, and it's a shape that lots of other people struggle with constantly, is producing a circle. I've demonstrated this earlier on, but I'm going to expand on that demonstration, because it's not just about producing a circle. You might have to produce half a circle, or you might have to produce the top half of the circle, or you might have to produce part of the curve. But you never knew that it was not half of a circle. So understanding what this shape is really, really important. And I think for a lot of people, producing this shape is about guessing. You know, a lot of people try to make this shape and they're like, oh, it didn't work. But it should work. Oh, I haven't done enough practice. But you should understand the shape. You should be able to describe where it sits between two lines. And so this practice that I'm going to show you is about that. It's about how to take this understanding and make it repeatable. So the things we have to understand. So the grid is this by this by this. This is our square. Our square is divided diagonally and it's divided vertically and it's divided horizontally. So there are a few ways to approach the circle. The first way is the Choo-Choo Train method. I love this method. So the Choo-Choo Train method is this. It goes, right, so put this start over. So the Choo-Choo Train method is this. It goes and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 choo choo. That's the Choo-Choo Train method. So by going from angles and softening the angles, so you're starting off slower and you're increasing the pace, and from going from angles to plotting a slightly wider from a square to an octagon, and then rounding that off by dashing it in. So it slows you down, and then eventually building up the speed, it creates a circle. So that was my first method. And I was like, oh, I like this Choo-Choo Train method, because when you hear that, you know you're getting faster, 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 faster. And slowly it smoothens off the square. So it's a great way to train yourself to write the shape. Now, after I sort of figured this out, I felt, but when you're writing with a broad edge tool and you have to do and 1 and 2, I thought, okay, that's great, but how does that work as a shape? So we have this momentum shape, and as we get slower, we spiral in, aim for the middle point, touch the 45. We know we have to touch there and we have to touch there. So we do this, we spiral in, touch the 45, we go out again, and we go up, dissipate the momentum, and we come back around, spiral in the opposite direction, and touch, 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 and leave. And that takes us back to the next letter. This is repeatable. It's actionable. There's no guessing. You don't have to hammer in your head, this is the curve. The curve naturally expresses itself. So we go and. One. Two. Okay. Now, the question is, how much of the curve do you need? Because if you're writing let's say you're writing a C in Textualis Quadrata. We have and 1, 2, 3. This is missing. So all of this is missing. So when you're writing a curve, how much of the segment of the circle are you writing? Do you know that it's a segment? So let's see how this actually works. The trick, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 7. Notice this is not touching the 45. So when you're writing this curve, I can't actually call that a semicircle because it's more of a segment. It's a large segment and it's only missing a fraction to make up a semicircle, but it's still not a semicircle. So when we come to writing these shapes, do we know what that curve is? If we have this method, it is foolproof for producing the curve, but you have to know how much of that curve you need. So you could do one. You could do two. But that also tells you, are you using if you're writing a monoline shape, there's your C, right? But you have to adjust the C. You have to adjust the line for the broad edge. Because when you use the broad edge and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, when you use the broad edge, you are in the middle here. So you're not here on the outside, tangentially touching the box. You are away from the box. So technically you are here. So now when I teach my monoline textualis, this is practically impossible to do because it's so hard, but by plotting against the tangential touching points, trains you to make the curve. So when you move to the broad edge, then you're going to have to move inside a little bit more. Now, this is really important because it then trains you to produce that. Notice I have not produced a semicircle. All of this is still missing. And you also need to be able to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and that. So there are tons of little square boxes here that you have to be able to fill, but you have to be able to map it. So if we looked at a G and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, 10, 11 and 12, you have to be able to map these curves by using movement, momentum, dissipation of momentum, verticality of lines, parallelisms in lines, your 45 at a curve, your 45 in a straight line. This is not about this is not about you learning, oh, this and this and this, they kind of go here and this goes here, and then I do this and I know there's a 45 here and I have to try and fit this curve in. This is not about me teaching you. This is not about me forcing you to learn how to write this letter. This is about me teaching you to sense the movements which generate the construct, which allows the letter to express itself. So by breathing through the whole thing, the breath produces the letter. You're only there to hold the tool. You think you're really important. You're writing the letter. But you're really only there to hold the tool. You are there to experience the letter. You are there to allow the universe to let you experience the letter. And that doesn't happen if you're learning the shape. It only happens if you're understanding the movement and you're pairing it with the breath. So I know that my approach to this is different. And I know for some people, they sort of think, oh, that's a little bit too out there for me. But I found that this method for producing a circle or producing a series of repeatable curves or producing any letter, because of course it's not just about this circular shape, it's about the breath, how and where it tells you to put the tool to make the verticals, to have them parallel, to have them connect to each other. I've seen this work so beautifully with people who struggle with calligraphy. And I'm not just talking about textualis quadrata. I'm talking about any script. You know, when I teach copperplate, it's the same system I use. It's all about the breath. It's all about slowing down and breathing and becoming part of the exercise with the tool. It's not about you learning a shape between two lines. It's about you sensing that this shape is there. It's about you connecting to the breath. The breath will generate the shape. If you are struggling with your practice, focus on your breathing.